Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at SUQQU's summer collection. So these two items I received in PR from SUQQU. The collection itself has not launched yet. We have a new product though. This is a cheek and lip tint. It comes in 3 different shades. This one here is number 3. And then I have this quad here, which is number 138. There are a few other items in the collection. So in this collection, we have 2 signature color eye palettes. So I have 138 and there's also 139, which you can see here is going to be a warmer tone palette. And then, as I mentioned, we have 3 cheek and lip tints. So there is a number 1 is kind of this beige shade. It's described as an elegant beige. Number 2 is a refreshing pinkish red. And number 3 that I have is described as a versatile berry. And then there are also 2 limited edition treatment wrapping lip glosses. And I love those personally. So we have shade number 107, which is an elegant purple, and 108, a flattering milky orange. So let's take a look at the items I have. Thank you so much to SUQQU for sending these to me. And let's start off with the cheek and lip tint. So first of all, for packaging, we have a black matte plastic lid. It is a glass jar. And as I mentioned, I have shade number 3, S03. And this is a beautiful, beautiful berry. Look at that shade. So I really love the color here. I think it's a really pretty shade. And this is it buffed out. So it is deep, and as we take a look at the demos, let's go ahead and move to those. You can see that in the demos, I applied it with my finger a little lightly on the one side and then more deeply with the Sonia G Mini Base on the other. It was definitely way too deep for me, but I wanted to see how deep the color could go. And then you could see in the demo that I pat over it with my foundation brush. This is a great blush for underpainting. So if you like kind of that, just a hint of color peeking through, going over this with your foundation brush, after using it, it really makes it a beautiful shade. And then I also tried mixing it with just a little bit of foundation to kind of tamp down the color a little bit, and that also worked beautifully. So I think it's a really versatile product. Now, this is a cheek and lip tint, meaning we can also use it on the lips. And according to SUQQU, it's a multi-use product that can be used as a blush or lip color. The lightweight formula provides a wash of color and dewy, juicy glow. Easily build to create your desired intensity of color. Now, like all SUQQU products, this is made in Japan. We have a 1-year shelf life and 7.3 grams of product. And putting this on the cheeks, the closest formula I can think of to compare it to would be that of the Chanel number 1 cream blushes. It's not as dewy as those. It is going to be a little bit firmer than those, a little bit drier than the Chanel cheek products, but it does have kind of a more similar texture to that. Now, you can see putting it on the lips, it will kind of set down to a satin matte finish on the lips. So if you want something dewier, go ahead and add like a gloss or a lip balm on top. But I think it gives more of a soft brush satin type of finish. It's comfortable on the lips, it's thin, but personally, I like to have a little bit more of an emollient texture on the lips. So this is one that, yes, I would go in and put the color on my lips, but I would definitely top it with a lip balm or a lip gloss, just because personally, I prefer to feel like I have something like that on there. I like the feeling of a balm. So I think the color looks great, both on cheeks and lips. Personally, I'll probably be using this more as a cheek product. Let's go ahead and take a look at just a few comparisons before we move on to the eyeshadow. So this here's the SUQQU, and this is the Chanel, and you can see right away that the Chanel is going to be a bit of a softer formula, a little bit more moussey in texture. And this is number 9, which is called Purple Energy, but it is, so you can see it's definitely a bit softer, but I feel like going on, they have a similar texture to them. The Chanel feels a little bit dewier, a little bit stickier in a way. But you can see we also have a little bit more of a sheen with the Chanel from that dewy texture. So just a little bit of a difference. The SUQQU's can be ever so slightly more matte, but again, they're both going to be it's more of a satin matte. This is a dewier satin. And Purple Energy, you can see, has more red in it, whereas the SUQQU shade has a bit more blue. So this is my closest shade for a blush comparison, but I also want to take a look at this as a lip product, and I've got a few comparisons here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to get a little bit more of the SUQQU product. We're going to put this right down here so we can really kind of see how the lipsticks compare. So Purple has definitely been having a moment, and I wanted to start off with one of the new SUQQU Moisture Glaze lipsticks. They are refillable, you can pull them out. And this one here is shade number 5. So just snap that back in, and I wanted to see how closely these compare, because this is a product that first came to mind when I saw this cheek tint. Now you can see that the lipstick is going to be more purple, and the cheek tint has a little bit more red in it compared to the lipstick. This, by the way, is a fantastic lipstick formula, one of my favorites. Highly, highly recommend it. Next, I also wanted to take a look at the new Chanel. These are the Rouge Allure, the Nuit collection, and this is shade number 5 o'clock. You can see there's going to be a bit more pink in the 5 o'clock shade, and this has a matte finish. This is Dior Rose Blues in the Velvet formula. You can see this is going to be significantly more rose, more pink. It's number 429 in the Rouge Dior. And then this is the Givenchy Intense Silk in 338. This came out for holiday 2 years ago. You can see this is significantly more pink. So those are just a few comparisons there. Let's go ahead and move on to the eyeshadow quad. All right, so this is the eyeshadow quad in 138. And you can see we've got some neutrals here. We've got a few pops of color. So this first shade here, this is more of your like topper kind of shade, but I have to say it's more pigmented than what SUQQU's toppers usually are. So you can see it's gonna be a bit more pigmented. You could wear this on its own. If you're using a finger application, even with a brush, you're going to get kind of that scattered starlight. So I have to say, I like the topper. You can see it's lavender, but there is a little bit of a warmer pink base there. Then our next shade here is going to be kind of like a soft khaki. There's a touch of olive in there. And this one actually feels very creamy to touch. So it's kind of got that creamy putty-like texture to it. Really easy to use. I think it's a really nice base shade. Then we have a matte pink, and it's going to be a warm matte pink. This is our typical matte formula from SUQQU. You can feel it has more of that silky powder texture to it, whereas the beige shade above it felt just a little bit creamier. And then our last shade here is going to be a shimmery deep brown. And look at that. It's like a cocoa brown. Really love this color. I think it is gorgeous. I love the shimmer in here. And the sparkle, it looks like we have gold and silver shimmer in here. And there's just like, when you look at it in the pan, it looks like there's a touch of purple. I don't actually see purple on my arm or on the eyes, but you can see it's definitely going to be a cooler cocoa brown. Let's take a look at the eye swatches. So the SUQQU Signature Color Eyes palette in 138 has 6.2 grams of product. It's made in Japan and has a 1-year shelf life. And this is pretty standard for all of SUQQU's eyeshadow quads. Now, according to SUQQU, number 138 is described as cold strawberry meets deep berry. So it's a pink tone palette that provides sweet and soft tones for an ethereal feel. Again, there is a second palette in the collection, number 139, which is described as orange peel and olive brown. It says this orange tone palette combines a depth reminiscent of simmered sweet nectar with fresh colors like summer oranges for a grounded and versatile look. And I think it's a really beautiful warm tone palette. And yeah, you know, I have to say, I think that this palette here, I have to admit, I wasn't super excited about this palette until I saw the swatches. And that happens a lot to me with SUQQU. I feel like everything looks better when you swatch it or you put it on versus in the pan. Not that it doesn't look beautiful in the pan, but there are a couple things that I really like about this palette. A few of the relatively recent palettes from SUQQU, they've had those marbled shades. Sometimes they work okay, sometimes they don't. I'm glad that this palette doesn't have them, so I like that. I also really love how the shimmer in here, that first topper shade, is more pigmented. It makes it very versatile because if you use a lighter fluffy brush, you can still get the same amount of sparkle and, you know, kind of spread that out a little bit more as you would with the previous topper, which was really firm in the pan. So you can also, though, then go in with a foam tip applicator or a finger and really build that up to use that shade on its own, which I think right now, you know, light eye looks with a shimmery shadow and a bright eyeliner, I'm really into that. And I think this shade is great for that. The second shade, the kind of khaki beige shade, I think it's just a really great base. For me, it's not going to show up too much on my eyelids, but if you're going for kind of that monochromatic look and you just want to kind of camouflage your lids a little bit, it works well for that. But it's also just a great base for the other shadows, and it gives the shimmer shades a little bit something to stick or adhere to a little bit more. So again, it's easier to build up that sparkle then if you put them on top of that shade. And I think it's I like this formula. Actually, I think every formula in this quad has been very successful this time. I absolutely love all of these. The matte pink, that one's my least favorite shade. It is going to be a warm, bright matte pink. And for my coloring, it's just not a shade that I personally love. However, I think mixing it with the deeper brown or the lavender sparkle, you know, really gives it a different hue. You can cool it off with the sparkle. And I think it's really pretty that way. This shade would also make a really nice blush. So you could definitely use it on the face as a blush shade as well. Moving on to the last shade, which is our deep brown. And again, we kind of have some multicolor shimmer in here. As I look at it even closer, it looks like not only do we have gold and silver sparkle, but I also see a little bit of red in here, red and pink sparkle as well. And, you know, I just think it's a really beautiful shade. So you can definitely, in the demo, you know, I went very, very softly. I tried to go very softly with the pink and the deep brown. You could definitely build that up more like in the eye swatches. That took absolutely no effort whatsoever to get that deep pigmented brown shade. And this is such a great shade for a one and done eye look. If you've got a deeper skin tone, just go in normally. If you have a lighter skin tone and you want to make it a little bit softer, definitely go in very softly with this. It's a pigmented shade. I have to say, I think it performs beautifully on the eyes as eyeshadow or as eyeliner as well. So all in all, I think that this is an absolutely beautiful eyeshadow quad. I'm very glad that I received this one. And, you know, I really love the formulas in this. I think they have really done an excellent job here. And I like the color story. Again, this pink is personally not a favorite for mine, but I think I'll be using that one more as blush, and it helps tie the whole palette in together. I think it's a really pretty shade for that use as well. Let's take a look at just a few comparisons. So when I first saw 138 in photos, the reason I wasn't so excited for it was because in my head, it looked very much like this one, which is number 107. This was a limited edition palette from SUQQU a while back. And let's go ahead and swatch this. You can see we have a topper shade first here, but you can see that it is going to be that firmer formula that I was talking about. So I'm going to put these directly next to it so you can kind of see. Now this shade here is going to be a little bit cooler in the 107 palette. And then we have this kind of, I'm going to kind of match up the shades a little bit. It's more of a matte dusty rose. And then we have this brown shade here, which is going to be a little bit deeper. It has a little bit more ochre in it than the new one. And then instead of a deep brown, we have a deep matte, kind of like a plum eggplant. So this is palette 107 versus the new 138. And this is my closest comparison. So I felt like in the pan, they look pretty similar, but in person, when you actually swatch them and use them, they look pretty different. Now, this palette is pretty different. This is number 1 from SUQQU, but I wanted to compare it because this is one from the permanent collection. And I have to say, I love the permanent palettes. I just wanted to kind of see which one would be the closest set of shades. And it's definitely here, the number 1 palette, but you can see this is gonna be more of your soft, rosy, neutral palette. You don't have any bright pops, and it's more neutral, whereas I would say that this palette overall leans a little bit cooler. And so let's move on to a few other palettes. This is the Chanel Le Beige in Cool. So this was another one that made me think of this palette. So let's go ahead, we'll swatch this one down here. We're gonna try to squeeze in a couple more. You can see that this shimmer shade here is similar, but it's going to be cooler in tone than the SUQQU. Then we have kind of this soft pink. And then we have 2 deeper shades here. It's kind of hard to swatch these with the smaller pans, but you can see we have kind of this deeper cranberry and then a deeper purple. So overall, I would say that they're pretty different palettes. And then this is the last one I wanted to compare to. This is the Chanel number 88 Coral Treasure. And I wanted to really see how this pink sparkly shade compares. So we're gonna put this one right up here at the top so we can see, you can see that the pink, it's definitely more pink. It has a bit more of a metallic vibe. And then we move on to this kind of like mandarin orange shade. And then we have this deeper pink. I wanted to see how this compared. And you can see that the Chanel is going to be a little bit cooler in tone, but we do still have a similar vibe. And then the last shade in the Chanel is going to be a deeper orange. So overall, I'd say that these 2 shades, although not the same as the SUQQU, they are similar. So, you know, if you have this palette, you can probably get pretty similar looks using those 2 shades and, you know, some neutral shades that you probably already have in your collection. So I hope this has been helpful. Let's just sum up the collection one more time. So just a little bit about the Touch of Nectar collection. This is inspired by the pure joy that comes with summer sunshine, infused with fresh colors that are simultaneously vivid yet translucent. The collection is all about that juicy, dewy look and enhances skin's natural glow for an ethereal and elegant finish, brimming with joy. And the entire collection will be available from May 16th at Selfridges, Harrods, Liberty, and Cult Beauty. So they have provided just the one date for all of those retailers. So hopefully everything launches at the same time and it's pretty easy to pick things up. So we have the 2 quads here. We have 138, which I featured here today, which has the pink and the purple. Then we have 139, which is more of your olive and orange. So that's going to be your warmer tone option. Then we have the Cream Touch Blush and Lip. So these are cheek and lip tints, and these are going to be a permanent item. So we have shades 1, 2, and 3. Anything from SUQQU that starts with number 100 and above is a limited edition product. So these are going to be a new permanent range item. We have number 1, which is a beige shade. Number 2 is a reddish pink. And number 3 that I featured here and what I have on my lips is going to be a berry shade. And I really like how it's a berry shade that's not too red, yet not too purple. It has a really nice balance, but it leans into that purple moment that we're having here in the beauty community, which again, purple is my favorite color. So very happy about that. Then we also have 2 limited edition treatment wrapping lip glosses. Number 107 is going to be a purple shade and 108 is going to be a milky orange. Now, I'm probably going to pick up the rest of this collection when it launches. I think it's a really beautiful collection. I'm really happy with all the formulas in these items. Thank you so much to SUQQU for sending these to me. Again, the collection will launch on May 16th. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. Please share your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'll see you very soon. Have a great day.